Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity. I am Jan Jeremias, and I am here with my canine companion, Tonka. And so a little bit about me. I'm a trained scientist who began exploring holistic and alternative healing about 18 years ago. I began my journey with the use of essential oils and began exploring things such as Reiki, gentle massage, and other modalities for pets and people too. I'm the co-author of the top-selling book, Spoil Your Pet, A Practical Guide to Using Essential Oils in Dogs and Cats. And today I really want to welcome someone who's become a really close friend, Bianca. And Bianca's getting on from Sydney, Australia. So quite far from where I am, but, you know, Zoom and technology makes everybody closer, that's for sure. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about Bianca, and then we'll get started. So she's an award-winning soul coach and animal communication mentor. She helps heart-centered pet parents connect intuitively to their higher self and therefore to their animals. She's a speaker, podcast host, and best-selling author of the book, Hello, Can You Hear Me? And I love that title, by the way. I think that's a great title. She has 2 dogs. She has a wonderful wife. And she enjoys so many things, outdoors, photography. And so welcome, Bianca.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So great to be here, Jen. Thank you so much.
So I think the thing I find so interesting is the animal communication, because to me, that's just, you know, I don't know. I think it's so, in a way, miraculous and something that is so needed, because I think obviously our pets, well, I shouldn't say our pets don't communicate with us, because I think they do. It's just that most people aren't listening to that communication, or don't know how to listen, right? So
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Oh, wow. Well, have you got a minute?
Yeah, we've got more than a minute.
Let's grab a cup of tea, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
So I can actually blame a snake for being able to communicate with animals. My journey started well before that time, and I really started to develop my spiritual abilities probably back in 2004, 2005. A lot of different things were happening in my life, and one of those things was to really discover what that meant for me to be able to utilize some of the skills that we are normally not attuned to, you know, as a human. So when all that started to happen, I really, you know, had a great journey exploring what that means and what it looks like and what I can do with it. You know, and for me, it also started with Reiki, and I love the fact that you do that as well. And that really helped me to understand more about what it means to tune in and to work with energy, to be able to communicate at that level with your own body and allowing energy to help us in the healing space. And that was quite an interesting journey for me, because I used to work in corporate finance. So very much, you know, headspace, analyzing things, you know, definitely black and white stuff, 3D. So it was a bit of a brain twister for me to then also focus on the spiritual side of things. So I had to really adapt into that. And once I started to flow with it, as I like to call it, to really integrate it within myself and in my life, it was just a lot of fun to work with, actually. Once I knew what it was and how to work with it. And then one day I was on a bushwalk with a friend of mine here in Sydney. For those who haven't been to Sydney, it's quite a green, luscious city to live in. There's so many different parks and, you know, little area pockets of nature tracks and things like that. So we don't have to travel that far to be able to be in nature, which is very, very wonderful. So we were on this nature track, and during that time, we had our own sandwiches with us. And there was a moment where we said, okay, a friend and I, we were sitting down, just having our sandwich and just be quiet. And we were just sitting enjoying, didn't have to say anything. And all of a sudden I could hear this voice in my head, hello, can you hear me? And I was like, oh. And I looked at my friend and I said to Miriam, I go, did you say something? And she goes, no. And I go, oh, okay, whatever. And again, hello, can you hear me? And it was sort of like my own voice, but not. It sounded really, I was a bit like, oh, okay. And I ignored it again. And again, hello, can you hear me? And it became very persistent. And in my head, I was like, yeah, okay, I can hear you. But who are you? Because, you sort of sound like me, but it's not. And the voice was, well, I'm a snake and I'm checking in to see whether you can hear me because you need to go out into the world and do your job. And I was like, what? I go, snake, yeah, right. I go, can you show yourself? And he goes, no, I'm not going to show myself because your friend is afraid of snakes and I don't want to upset her. But I just want to make sure that you can hear me and you go out into the world and do your job. Bring the animals back together with the humans. And I was just like, whoa. And he took off. And I said to my friend, I go, Miriam actually looked at me. She goes, what just happened? She goes, something weird just happened. I can see it in your face. And I go, are you afraid of snakes? And she literally jumps up, turns white as a ghost, starts to look around frantically. And I just looked at her going, oh, I did not know that. But we're in a nature park. Like there's snakes everywhere in Sydney, even though you don't see them, they're everywhere. So, and that was my validation. And on the track back to home, there was another lizard that came up to me and also started talking to me. And I was like, whoa, this is just way too creepy. And I came home and my two dogs at the time, they actually came up to me straight to the door, as they do. You come home, the dogs are very excited. And also one of them, Toby, he sits down and he looks at me and he goes, you can finally hear me. And I've got all this information over me. And I was like, whoa, mate, I have no idea what this is. What are we going to do here? But before that happened, Toby used to just sit in front of me and just stare at me. And I used to always think to myself, mate, no idea. You're probably telling me a lot, but I can't pick up what you're saying. So from that day, it was like the floodgates opened up. So animals, spirit, all of a sudden I could hear voices, and I could sense a lot more as well. But I needed to figure out exactly what I could do to consciously tune in and, make it, for me, much more valuable than just having voices pop in left, right, and center. So I found someone who taught animal communication. So I got some practicality around that, and that helped with my human brain to understand how that works. And yeah, the rest is history, as they say. And that's when I really started to hone in on that side of the spiritual abilities. And together with Reiki and energy healing, it's been a really wonderful journey to be able to work with the animals in that way, which has now shifted because the animals have told me, there are many people who work with us, for us. You're here to work with us for the humans. So that has shifted, in particular in the last 2 years, to actually work with the animals and help the humans further develop.
I love that because years ago, I recognized, I always have said that, we're given the animals we need. That, it's not by chance that they come into our lives at all, that, they come to us and they're supposed to be matched with us, for a reason, maybe at the time that we don't quite comprehend, and I think we all feel it. I've always adopted pets, and you can tell when you meet an animal and you're like, oh, this is my, they're probably saying this is my human. And I'm saying, oh, this is my dog. This is my whatever, my dog, my cat, whatever it is. And I remember really looking and realizing how what I did affected him. And now I'm not talking about we're not talking about diet changes. I'm talking about my emotional well-being and what that was and how that affected him, both emotionally and physically, and vice versa, And so I think that to switch that, because I think a lot of people out there do modalities to help dogs or pets live their best life or whatever. But to say, okay, well, I'm going to work with the animals so that their humans are are better or
Yes.
happier or joyful or just whatever, peaceful, complete, however you want to label it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's actually interesting, all the conversations I've had with animals, and in particular pets, you know, 9 out of 10 will come to me and go, I need to share something about my human that they need to pay attention to. So the very first time I had to do that, that was a bit scary, because I thought, I can't tell them that. No way. I'm not going to share that with them. Like, that's so personal. I can't do that. But, you know, animals are so persistent in that. They go, well, they have to know, because they don't see it for themselves. And, you know, animals are with you almost 24/7. They see and hear and sense so much more than we think. They are already at such a different energy level and a different space that they operate in automatically. They don't have to do anything for it. They're just in that space, you know. It's not just the unconditional love, it's really in the present moment. And they observe and they see and they feel. So whatever we do definitely has an impact on them. Absolutely, 100%. I so agree with you there, because we need to make sure that we keep ourselves in check. But also at the same time, they teach us so much. Because if we start observing them, what can we learn from our pets? You know? And most of the time it is about being in the present moment, love yourself, have, you know, no expectations, go with the flow. You know, those are some of the things that are just quickly popping in my mind, what we can certainly learn from them, you know.
Yeah, I think I love that, because I think that they are so in the present moment. They know how to have fun. They know, there is no, I was talking to somebody today and I said, you know, with pets, one of the most beautiful things is they don't go into the self-pity mode. They are just they easily adapt to whatever happens to them. And that might be a physical injury, but they just work with it. And they don't sit there and go down the woe is me pathway, you know, of like, they just are like, okay, this is the way life is now. And, you know, in that way, I always found it huge. I also love the fact that they're so attuned to things that we really, maybe some of us feel, but a lot of people don't pay attention to. And that's things like, you know, and I mean, changes of energy or atmospheric pressure and all those other things of like, and their senses, which are so magnified compared to ours, which is just, you know, remarkable to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that we can learn to amplify for ourselves as well. You know, once we understand that we are also energy beings, and we respond without us realizing to all those different changes around us, you know, and what we can do with it and how it can benefit us, is for us to also understand what are these different senses that we can amplify. Because people always tell me, oh, you know, you've got such a gift, animal communication, or even Reiki healing, or, you know, talking to spirit. It's such a gift. How do you do that? You know, I can never do that. Everybody can. We're all energy beings. We're all soul beings. We can all learn this. It's literally remembering what it's like to tap into those abilities, to those energies, to those skills. And some of us have chosen to do that very consciously in this lifetime, and others haven't. And it will probably remain sort of closed off, quote unquote, closed, because they've decided not to work with those skills in this lifetime. And that's perfectly okay, right?
Yeah. And I think so much of it is like, you know, for me, getting myself quiet enough, and I mean quiet on the inside, to be able to hear stuff. And like you were talking about, getting out of your brain.
Yes.
And getting out of that sort of analytical, very thinking mind, which coming from my background also as a scientist, you know, wasn't a natural place to be, but realizing that, you know, there is a lot more out there, you know what I mean? There's another whole world outside of that, which is outside of the thinking brain. And usually, people will say to me, for whatever intuitive abilities that I have, they'll say, so how do you do that? And like, and I'll just be like, I've got to turn off my brain. Like, I've just got to get quiet, and whether it's quiet or not, but I just have to get out of my head, so to speak.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just, because then my brain it's almost like your brain takes over and gets too loud, and nothing else can get in. Like, that's the way I feel about it. It's like, I'm like, be quiet, like, to my brain, like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think you can get 100% quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that should be a purpose.
Right. No.
It's about quieting it down to a point where we can hear our inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we can really get our human quiet in that space. And I always tell my clients as well, because this is one of the biggest challenges that my clients are facing, is that their human takes over, our brain takes over, that chatter that comes back in. And then we are not trusting what we are hearing from our pets. We're not trusting the connection we have with our pets. So once we start to understand how our human works and what the role is of our human compared to the role that our soul has in this lifetime, I always say we want to make sure that our human is in the passenger seat, no longer in the driver's seat.
I love that.
And our soul is in the driver's seat, because our soul has decided to be here in this lifetime. Our human helps us to be human. So working with those two and get them into alignment, for me, is really important. And, I haven't got that 100% under control. No way. It's still a learning process every single day.
Yeah. And I love that idea, because I remember the first time I went to my first meditation class, and I remember the guy said, don't think. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how do you not think? Like, it was one of the stupidest directions I'd ever gotten in my life, because I realized you always think. It's just quieting it down enough so that it's not as loud as it would be. And there is space. So when you said that, that's what reminded me of that, is that it's always going to be there. It's just how much attention you place on it, and so how do you, how, like, in your own life with your own pets, like, how has this played a role?
Oh, enormously. It's been really important for me to be able to know what they need to have a happy life. This all evolved for me when my other two dogs were still with me, Rosie and Toby, and they have really helped me through the process, as well as I've helped them have a happy life. So the minute I could understand them, Toby just gave me all this information, about what his experience was in this lifetime and about how he was supporting me in this lifetime. He was like my guardian. And for Rosie, she was really able to help me understand what her role was. And that was in helping me to get, indeed, the right people, the right pets for me to help them. So I saw her a little bit as a business partner in that sense when I started up my business. But it's helped me to understand, especially for Toby, he was always quite an anxious dog, he had a few ailments and things like that. So to know where his pain was, what we could do about it, what he wanted to do about it, did we have to go to a vet or not? Was it something in the food? Did they really enjoy that sort of thing? What was his pain level? How intense was it? What does he need for me to be able to soothe that for him? So he was always able to tell me exactly what I could do for him. Rosie, in the end, she got really, really sick very, very quickly. And I asked her, what's going on? Why are you losing weight? Why are you not eating? And she never told me. And within 2 weeks, she passed away. And later on, when she came and visited me, she goes, I just didn't want to make you anxious and hurt and start grieving before I passed. Because she said to me, you had in your mind that Toby was going to go first. And then me, she goes, but that was never the plan. Everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And so that helped me as well to be able to have that connection, to understand what happened around that time as well. But it's been a really good way for me to help them with their physical bodies, and also to understand what their needs and their wants were and how they enjoyed certain things as well. With my dogs now, Raphael and Tofu, they are always communicating. Like, that connection is always open. And it's not like, we have conversations all day long.
Mm-hmm.
It's like little bits and pieces of information that I then receive from them. Like, going for a walk, I hear nothing but, oh my God, this is so much fun. Oh my God, this is so good, from Tofu.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it. If I take a photo of her, she's got a big, massive smile on her face and she loves it. And, and so it's those little things, and it's like, okay, if I work too long at my desk, they come up and, start playing, jumping up and down. And it's like, come on, have a break. Let's play. Let's have some fun. Understanding simple things, what they enjoy in their food. Tofu is not that fast. She eats everything and anything. It's okay. Raffi is a little bit more challenging in the fact that, some foods are not good for his physical body. And in the beginning, when he first came to us, he was even testing it out. Like, what do I really enjoy? What do I not enjoy? What works for my physical body? What doesn't? He enjoys chicken very much, for example, but his body doesn't resonate with it. So avoid chicken.
Right.
Right. So those are the things that, once you ask that question. And what I want to share as well is that, similar to when we have children, where parents automatically know, my baby's crying because it's hungry or it's grumpy or something has, there's an upset in the body or whatever it is. Parents can hear the difference in the crying, right? So they know intuitively what could be the challenge for that baby. Children as well, even though they may not be able to express themselves, parents automatically know, oh my God, something may be wrong, or they're ill, or whatever it is. We as pet parents already have that ability. We know what goes on for them. However, we don't trust it, because it may feel uncomfortable to think to ourselves as a human, my dog is talking to me, or my bird is squeaking in a different way and telling me that they might be hungry, for example, right? Because we don't trust it, because it's such an unusual way of communicating. That's where we start to doubt it and say, oh, I can't talk to my pet because I don't know what's going on. But deep down, we do know what's going on. Right. So, and it's trusting that. And initially you might just have to go with that. When you ask your pet a question, do you enjoy food? And you straight away get a yes or a no. Trust that. Because sometimes the information comes in so quickly, often we disregard it. Oh, that can't be right. Well, yeah.
I always feel like that with that kind of gut reaction, like that kind of feeling of like when you can't explain it to people, but in your gut, you feel it's a certain way. Like, this feels right to me, and it's not like you can explain it to anybody. It's the same type of thing. It's like getting that kind of really strong answer, which you can't necessarily explain to anybody else, but that that's what it is.
Yeah. And it's your intuition as well, right? So we're trusting that. And I know that we are always connected at a soul level. We are all connected together, right? So, and the challenge for us is that as a human, an individual human, to understand that we are connected to our soul. That's also where it breaks down, because we don't often trust that connection either. Therefore, we don't trust our intuition. We don't trust that gut feeling. I've had people say, oh, I've got this feeling in my tummy, and it's, bad news, something bad's going to happen. I always tell them, when you feel that feeling, it may not mean something bad's going to happen. It feels uncomfortable to you because you've not necessarily taken the time, like you said before, Jen, to actually quiet the mind, to sit in that stillness and to find out what that feeling actually means. Because it might be your intuition telling you something. It doesn't have to be something bad's going to happen. Oh, I need to watch out, or my family member needs to watch out because there might be an accident around the corner because that's how my tummy feels. No, it's your intuition, and that could feel like butterflies or nervousness, or it's taking that time to be still and to ask that question. Okay, I'm feeling that in my tummy right now. Breathe into it. What are the messages that I'm receiving around that? What is that feeling telling me? Because your intuition usually comes from that gut area, right? And once you tune into that and you get those messages through, again, it can be really quickly. They can be answers straight away. Just trust that and see how that goes. And maybe even write things down that come up for you. And then see how that progresses over time, like within a week or 2 weeks, and see what actually comes from that. What are the opportunities that you may have already sensed through that feeling? What are the things that, maybe there is an accident around the corner, but is that then true as well? Right? So, and once we start to play with that and feel into it and write down what comes up for you, that's how you start to validate information and learn to trust your own intuition. And animals do that really well. They trust their instinct. They trust that gut feeling for themselves all the time in that present moment. Yeah.
I think they are so good at that. And I think, the other thing I've been thinking about it through our conversation is, the support we get from our animals. Like, we get all the health benefits, all those kind of benefits, but there is some sort of undescribable kind of connection to me that, I've always felt it with my pets, and when you were describing this whole feeling of like, we know as a mother knows a baby, I had an old dog behaviorist I worked with for a number of years, and he used to say the leash is just an external umbilical cord. Yeah. And when you said that, that was the first thing I thought of, because I was like, that's really all it is it's just, it's a heart umbilical cord, like that's what it is. It's just this connection we have to them and them to us. It's so striking to me though how they read energy. Like they're Tonka's very discerning, so there are definitely people that are his people that he automatically just loves them, and and then others he's kind of like standoffish with. It's just so interesting sometimes to see who he resonates with. And it's a beautiful thing to kind of look at and say, oh, okay, I can definitely tell you love this person. You have a real connection to this person, and this person not. So, they definitely have that, and they sense that on such an unbelievably kind of, and right away, like, it's not even like this, the person will do anything or anything, so they're reading it at such a deep level.
Yeah. Definitely. And they also just leave it as is, they just accept it.
True.
And they can just go to that person and go, yeah, I love you, or no, I don't, but there doesn't have to be a reason for it. I just don't resonate. I'm just not at your energy level. So I'd rather avoid you then, because they also know not to be in that space of that energy that they don't resonate with. They remove themselves from it. Right. So for example, if you have a really bad day, and you're very down and out, your mood is, all over the place, perhaps you feel really low in energy, observe what your pet's doing. Some pets walk away. They will not come to you, whereas normally they would. Or other pets, they may just come to you and make you feel different, to help you shift your energy, feel love again. Because if we're in that really down and out space, we're not in a loving place. And it depends on the animal as well, because they're their own individual sentient being. So it depends on how they work with that, what's good for them.
Well, because as you say that, Tonka is going to be distant. Yeah. But because he's going to be distant, it kind of forces me out of the mood I'm in, because I don't want him to be distant. I want him to be close.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden I'm going to be like, okay, turn the, switch the brain off or whatever I have to do to kind of make all, to get in a better mood so that, you know, he'll want to hang out with me, you know, and,
exactly.
you know, the only time it doesn't matter is at night when we're in bed. Because he's going to be up there no matter what anyway. You know, he just loves being there. But during the day, if he feels like, you know, something's going on and I'm extra stressed or whatever, he's going to maintain his distance.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then I'll chill, you know, kind of thing, or something happens. And, you know, and every now and then he'll still like, he'll come down. It's kind of like he has to check on me.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, it's adorable. It's adorable. So if you were going to leave our listeners with one golden nugget, like one little piece of information, what would you do? What would you say?
I would say be observant of your pet's behavior towards you. And once you do that, also, you know, quiet your mind and tune into that moment and see what you are receiving in that moment. What are you feeling? What are you sensing? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Because your pet is always communicating with you, whether that's through words or feelings or emotions, or whether that's through their behavior, but towards you as the guardian in that moment. So, because once you get really quiet, that's when you start to pick up on what they are sending you. And that can be received by you in a variety of ways. But once we do that, we get a better understanding of what may go on for us that we might not be aware of. And we also get a better understanding of what they are experiencing because of the way that we are showing up every day. So like you say already, Jen, that Tonka becomes more distant. You don't want that. Therefore, you shift your energy, do things what you can do to lift up your energy. Therefore, Tonka comes back to you, right? So that's a really good indication, and be aware of that. Maybe even start making some notes of what you see every day within your pet's behavior. And it doesn't matter what pet we have, you know, every animal does this, whether it's a snake or a bird or a cat or a dog, it doesn't matter. So, but once we become aware of it, we can make the shifts, and they may be tiny little tweaks of what we need to do so that you have a better experience, but your pet also feels better for it.
Absolutely. That was beautiful. Well, it has been so much fun having you on. I can't wait to have you back. And and everybody look out, because Bianca and I are going to be doing some joint stuff together, and we're super excited, and we'll share that as it evolves. So to everybody out there, thank you for joining us, and have a good one.
Thank you.
Do things a certain way. So we have to give ourselves some grace. So yeah, I hear you about that. You're not alone, and you don't need to be feeling ashamed about it, because it's so common. More than 1 in 3 people have pre-diabetes, and 80% of those people don't even know they have it. It's wild.
Wow. That's a sort of like shocking almost statistic.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is, so many of those people could actually reverse that.
Yes. They are definitely in reversible territory.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so appreciate you being here and sharing so much of yourself with us, and your life with Manny. And you'll have to keep in touch with us so we can maybe get back together at some point and just, you know, find out what's up and how things are going.
I would love that. Manny and I'd love another little coffee chat with you and Tonka. We would be game.
Okay. Sounds good. So everybody out there, thank you for joining in, and we'll be back soon with another great episode of Pet Life and Longevity. And in the meantime, stay well and stay healthy.
You've been listening to Pets, People, Life and Longevity, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. can catch every episode at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts.